The birds do it, bees do it, even overeducated fleas do it.
You know what doesn't do it?
They have been asexual for between 30 to 50 million years.
Meet the rotifer.
There are many kinds of rotifers, but the sort that we work on are called bdelloid rotifers, and they're obviously, I think, the coolest kind.
That's Chris Wilson, and this is his colleague, Paul Sherman. They published a paper this week that may solve the mystery of the bdelloid dry spell. If you're wondering how we know these guys haven't been having sex for millions of years, for starters, you can tell by their genes. They don't have any of the markers of sexual recombination. But here's the real clincher.
In nearly 300 years of observation,
Nobody's ever seen a male bdelloid.
And apparently, they aren't worse for wear.
they proliferated. There are more than 460 species of bdelloid rotifers.
Which is puzzling.
The big puzzle is this.
We know that if a lineage of organisms stops having sex and abandons males, they go extinct relatively quickly.
And yet the bdelloids are this remarkable case where it hasn't happened.
But let's talk about sex for a second.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Maybe it's overrated. I mean, cloning has its upsides.
Sex is a very inefficient way to reproduce.
Plus, you avoid all the problems associated with sexually transmitted diseases.
They don't have to fight for mates.
But there's at least one big plus.
You need genetic variation created by sex to be able to resist infectious diseases, your parasites and your pathogens.
This is so-called Red Queen hypothesis.
And the idea is that species need sex to evolve fast enough to keep up with rapidly changing parasites and pathogens that threaten them. And basically all plants and animals fit with this theory, except bdelloids. To figure out how these guys deal with parasites, Wilson and Sherman took healthy bdelloids like these and infected them with this deadly fungus. And here's what happened.
This is one of my favorite aspects of the story. The fungus produces microscopic spores. These spores lodge in the throat of the rotifer and then start to germinate, just like a sort of seed growing a shoot. And these fungal feeding cells then start to digest the rotifer from the inside out, at which point the rotifer becomes very unhappy. It's very easy to feel sorry for them when you see this process, but the fungus inside them is digesting their cells until finally it has enough energy to puncture through the rotifer's surface and produce a giant tree, the water surface of floating spores that then fall back into the water and infect all that rotifer's sisters and daughters and so on.
Now here's the twist.
This trick that bdelloids can do, they can dry out, lose all the water in their bodies and enter essentially a state of suspended animation for up to as long as 10 years in some extreme cases.
This ability to dehydrate and come back to life allows bdelloids to survive in the most temporary water environments, and it seems to provide pathogen protection as well. When the researchers dried infected colonies, they found
after 5 weeks, 90% of these rotifers were completely free of this infectious fungus.
The uninfected rotifers in the colony woke up and the fungus was gone.
So there's an escape in time. The second thing, there's an escape in space.
So our second experiment was to dry a large population of infected bdelloid rotifers and blow them around into new fresh dishes. And it turned out that in the majority of cases, the rotifers were able to blow away and start new populations, and the parasite wasn't able to follow them.
And there you have it. They beat the Red Queen effect by drying up and blowing away. That's the sort of extraordinary adaptation required to survive without sex. But for the rest of us,
Well, let's do it. Let's fall in love.
for Science Friday, I'm Flora Lichtman.